Okay, guys, within the section 11.6, you're doing area of composite pictures. Sorry. So composite pictures are going to be shapes that are not regular. So they're not going to be rectangles or normal parallelograms or even trapezoids. They're going to be made up of parallelograms, triangles, trapezoids, and circles. So you're going to be using all these different area formulas and then combining them. Now, depending on your problem, sometimes you're adding, sometimes you're subtracting. So it's going to depend on your picture. So it's going to be partly problem solving. How do I piece these together? How do I cut them apart into figures that I can actually find the correct base, the height, that the height is going to form a 90-degree angle. Okay, so those are the types of things I need you to think about within these sets of problems. So looking at this first one, we want to break it up first. That's always your first task. Okay, so I'm going to break this up into, and I'm going to break it up into a rectangle and a triangle. Now the reason that I choose these is, one, I can see that I'll know the height and the base of my triangle because this is right. Okay. I also will have the base and the height of my rectangle as well. But the triangle, since that's what you're piecing apart, is going to be the part is going to be the part that you're more concerned with. Okay. Now you're going to have to use your reasoning skills here. So within this rectangle, it's 12 by 4, which means this whole measurement here is also 12 feet. Okay, and if this height is 4 feet, that means this height would also be 4 feet. We know this because we know what a rectangle is. So if this is 4 feet and this whole length here is 10 feet, that means what's left would be 6 feet, because 6 feet plus 4 feet is 10 feet. Okay, looking at your triangle, now I have one side, I need to find the other, so I have my 90-degree angle. If this is 8 and this whole length is 12, that means this would be 4 feet, because 8 plus 4 is 12. Okay, so I'm finding the area of my triangle, and then I'm finding my area of my rectangle. So the area of the triangle is base times height divided by 2. My base is 4 feet. My height is 6 feet. Okay, so 4 times 6 is 24. When I divide that by 2, I get an area of 12 feet squared. Looking at my rectangle here, I have a base of 12 and a height of 4. 12 times 4 is 48. So my rectangle is 48 feet squared. Now looking at this picture, I'm taking my rectangle and I'm taking my triangle and I'm putting them together. When I put things together, I'm adding. So I'm going to take 12 feet plus 48 feet to get the total area, which would be 60 feet squared. Okay, that is the total area of this figure. All right, so it's like a puzzle. I'm breaking it up into figures where, once again, I'd have to know the base and the height of my triangle. I'd have to know the diameter or radius of my circle, okay, in order to make these work. Okay, within this problem, I've kind of already cut it for us. I have a rectangle here, and then I also have a half circle. And we know it's a half circle because this is the center, okay? So my rectangle should be easy to see. So I'm going to do area of rectangle, and that's base times height. And I have a half circle, so I'm doing area of a circle. Now the area of a circle is pi r squared, but since it's only half a circle, we're going to have to divide that by 2. Okay? So for my rectangle, my base is 9.2 and my height is 1.5. Base and height. Okay? So I'm going to grab my calculator here. 9.2 times 1.5 is 13.8. So the area of my rectangle equals 13.8 centimeters squared. Okay? Now, this whole length is 9.2, which means this whole length is 9.2 centimeters. If I take 9.2 and subtract 2.5 from it, that will give me this length. Okay, which would be, since it goes all the way across the circle and through the center, it would be the diameter of the circle. So 9.2 minus 2.5, this is 6.7 centimeters. Now please recall that in a area formula, you're using the radius. So I'm going to take 6.7, I'm going to have to divide it by 2 to get my radius. Okay, so keep things like that in mind. It's 3.35 centimeters. That's your radius. So for my circle, I'm going to take pi, which we're going to write as 3.14, times 3.35 squared, which means I'm going to multiply it by itself. Then I'm going to divide it by 2 because once again it's only a half of a circle. So pi 3.14 times 3.35 times 3.35 equals a total of 35.23865. Now I'm going to take half of that. So I'm going to divide that by 2. I'm going to bring this over here. So the area is 17. I'm going to round to the nearest tenth, 17.6 centimeters squared. Okay, now within this problem, you're putting together both the rectangle and the half circle. So once again, I'm going to add these two area formulas together. So 13.8 plus 17.6 is 31.4. 31.4 and its area, centimeters squared. So this here is your total answer. Okay, once again, taking pieces, combining them. Okay, same thought process here. I have a rectangle and I have a half circle. So I'm going to take base times height. And then here I'm going to take pi times radius squared, and once again cut it in half, divide that by 2. All right, for this one you have to put a little bit more work in again. The total length, I have my base of my rectangle, but the height I have to figure out. This total length is 7.2 feet. Okay, now if I go from my center to the top of the circle, that represents the radius. I know the diameter of the circle is 3.4 feet. So if I take half of that, that's going to tell me what my radius is. So my radius here, if I take that divided by 2, I get 1.7 feet. So if this length is 1.7, I can subtract that from 7.2 to find the height of my rectangle. Okay, so sometimes you have to put some work into these. So this is 5.5 feet as my length. Once again, I took the radius and subtracted it from the total length. So my base is 3.4. My height is 7.2. When I multiply those together, you get 24. Oh, I just did the wrong thing here. Don't do 3.4 times 7.2. We just said the height was 5.5. Apologize. So 3.4 times 5.5, that is 18.7 feet squared. For my half circle, I've already figured my radius. So it's going to be 3.14 times 1.7 squared divided by 2. Okay, so 3.14 times 1.7 times 1.7 is 9.0746. I'm going to go ahead and divide that by 2 and round to the nearest tenth, and I get 4.5 feet squared. Okay, once again within this problem, I'm going to add the two together. So 18.7 plus 4.5 is 23.2 feet squared. Okay? And the final problem. Okay, we can visually very easily see the rectangle again. And then I have this triangle. My picture's not perfect here, but it should be straight across. I know that this is 5 centimeters. Okay? Now within a triangle you have to have a height. So if this is my base of 5 centimeters, I need to find the height of my triangle. Okay, I want you to notice that this tells me the whole thing is 14 centimeters. Since it's a rectangle, I know that this is 10 centimeters, meaning from here to here has to be 4 centimeters, which would represent the height of your triangle. Okay, so you have to look at all the different dimensions, different lengths to find what you're going to be using. So I have my area of my rectangle, which is base times height. My base is 10 and my height is 15. So my area equals 150 centimeters squared. For my triangle, I have base times height divided by 2. My base is 5. Oops. Come on, pen here. There we go. 5. My height, I said, was 4. And I'm going to divide that by 2. So 5 times 4 is 20. 20 divided by 2 is 10 centimeters squared. Okay, since I'm combining these two pieces, once again, I'm going to add 150 plus 10 is 160 centimeters squared. That is my total area. So for these problems, guys, you're going to have to be looking outside the box. You have to look at all the dimensions. You're going to have to be able to cut pieces apart. Make sure what you're cutting apart, you would know the base and the height for the rectangle. You would know the base and the height for the triangle. You're going to be able to find the diameter or the radius of the circle. You're going to be able to find both bases and the height if it's a trapezoid. Okay, this information has to be present within the problem in order to actually get it correct. Okay, so take your time as you work through these problems. We didn't assign a whole lot to go along with this section on purpose, so hopefully that's going to extend your thought, okay, give you some time to process what information is given and what's going to be important. Okay, as always, ask questions if you have any tomorrow, and thanks for watching.